Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this edition of SportsView. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel, and thank you in anticipation. Good evening, Derwynne, Honan.
Hey, Pat. How are you?
Very well. And good evening, Joe Waters. Nice to
Evening,
have you.
Pat. Evening, Derwynne.
And
Hey,
we
Joe,
have the
you okay?
usual suspects on the show: soccer, rugby, golf, world athletics, tennis, whatever. Spain are the World Cup champions, the Women's World Cup champions. It's the 9th edition of the Women's World Cup, and Spain are new winners. They're the only team to have won both the Men's and Women's World Cup. Did they win the World Cup?
Who, the men?
Yeah?
Yeah, they beat Holland in the final.
They did. So they're the only team to win both. Now, England obviously were in the final, so they were on track to do that, but unfortunately they came up short. Messi, they won a trophy. Inter Miami won their first trophy over the weekend with a draw, but then a penalty shootout, 7-6. Bellingham scored 2 on his travels. Forest, Brentford, Liverpool, Brighton, West Ham, Spurs, and Man City all won. Did you see the Women's World Cup final, two of you lads, Derwynne?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday morning, yeah.
Yeah, and what do you think of it as a spectacle?
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. England got beaten by a better team. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I don't think England exactly played great, but at the same time, I don't think they were allowed to play any good anyway. Spain just outplayed them.
That's true. And Joe, would you concur with that they were outplayed, really?
Yeah, I think Spain were a better team than them. I mean, they both played well in their respective ways, but Spain had that little bit more class, and they were more technical than the English team were. And I always thought that was going to be a problem for England, not being able to get the ball and be chasing it and what have you. So
there was on the radio driving home tonight from work. There was Chris Sutton was talking about it on Talk Sport. No, on 5 Live. Sorry, BBC, and he was saying how technically better Spain are with passing the ball because they grow up in academies in that style. But he was also highlighting how close, like the back four was to the middle players. So whenever they got the ball, they were able to play out because they had more players around. And I think there's a few of those England players are sort of gone past their shelf life, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they did a good job. I suppose you can't really fault the manager for getting a team to the World Cup final. Let's be honest about it. But nevertheless, they were. I think that the front two were out of gas at halftime. For England. That's the way I saw it.
I think Lucy Bronze has run her race, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She looked like she was puffing her way there at the back.
Yeah.
She looked a bit lost there, didn't she?
I suppose it was a good spectacle, nevertheless, and I think it raised the profile of women's soccer. In that part of the world, it is pretty strong enough in Europe. Well, your 2 European teams contesting the final. But you have emerging teams as well. A team like Colombia, I hope they'll stay interested, and I hope they'll reinvest in them because they caught my eye during that World Cup, Joe.
Yeah, they were very good. But you have to look at the Spanish team here and look at what they've achieved. They were without 15 of their best players. They all objected to the coach, and they didn't get on with him. They whatever, this, that, and the other. And his methods were outdated. He's this, that, and the other thing. And yet he gets a group of people with only 3 players that were in the original squad that he had.
Yeah.
And he wins the World Cup with a group of people. And Derwynne, I don't know about you, but I read the English press all week, and all they're doing is making a big deal about how disunited this Spanish team was, how the squad was at odds with the coaches and what have you, because players were coming off and they weren't slapping hands with coaches. They were irritated with them. We watch that in the Premier League every week, and nobody makes a big deal about that.
That's
but
right.
because because it's Spain and because they're trying to invent a narrative that will make the English team seem like they've got a better opportunity to win this. And just, it backfired. And that was my fear all the time. I knew the Spain were a good, sound, technical team, and that England were going to have a problem with that. And, despite the negative press they got, they came out and they did the job. I mean, we all know that it really doesn't matter, right? If you're irritated with the coach, if you're PO'd with him or whatever it is, or whoever it is, the minute you step onto the field, you don't care about money. Or you step onto the golf course or the tennis court, you don't care about money. All you care about is winning. Yeah. And that's what these players were, focused on winning the World Cup. And they deserved it, So I was so pleased for them, and we'll remain to see what happens with the coach after this. But how can you argue with a guy?
Joe, usual thing, innit? England get to a final, and instantly they've won it before they've even kicked off. And yesterday they were going, well, not yesterday, the last few days they're going on about the manager, to replace Southgate.
You just
sit there and kind of go, what planet are you on? Because could you imagine her stepping into that role with I don't want to, it sounds really sexist, but with the Premier League players, you know what they're like. They fall out with Alex Ferguson. What are they going to do with?
She would look. It's silly buggers talk. That's what it is, Joe.
But it is, because I just don't understand it in any way, shape, or form. How you'd even think about that. They're talking about giving her a statue because she got to a World Cup final in front of Wembley and what have you, and the whole thing. Some of this stuff is just ridiculous. Right. So I watched a little bit with Simon Jordan on I'm not sure what exact program he was on. TalkSport. That was it. Yeah. And he kind of said, I'm really happy for it. It was a great advert for the women's game. The women's game has advanced, and it has. But to be talking about investing the same amount of money in the women's game as you're doing in the Premier League in the men's game is silly talk, because until such time, and talking equal pay, the whole thing, but on such time as the women's game is able to support itself, then you cannot have equal payment and what have you. So it has a long way to go to catch
it has. Up. Look, people have to accept, and we don't want to be coming across as sexist, that it's a minority sport still. Even when you look at the people who are attending the women's league in England, which is well advanced, far ahead of a lot of them. The gates
somebody came out with a really good comment on Saturday. They were talking about women's sport, and they were talking about football in general. But somebody went, hold your horses for a second, because some of the rugby unions, international rugby unions, have actually gone down the road of, I think Wales have done it. I think Scotland. I'm not sure about Ireland, but I know England, Scotland, and Wales have done it, where they've played. Wales ladies have played Scotland ladies before. Wales playing New Zealand, for argument's sake, in Cardiff Arms Park, and your ticket gets you 2 games. But no one has turned up to watch that first part. No. Part 1 being the ladies, it was like no one turned up.
That's true.
It was empty.
And Derwynne, we're not disparaging towards women. We're talking about facts of life. Facts of life.
It reminds me of if the three of us were going to go and watch Tyson Fury fight, would we go to the first fight on that card when in fact we know it's Tyson Fury is going to fight in 3 hours' time?
No.
Would we be there to watch all of that, or would we go, let's get there maybe for the bout before, because they're going up in levels, aren't they, by that stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting back to we leave it there now. In 4 years' time, we don't know who will be there. Ireland did well as a transfer because Australia got into the semi-final. That's the only thing we can hold on to here in our group. But anyway, they did well to qualify for the first World Cup. England did well. Commiserations to them. Spain, a youngish team. They seem to have enough talent to have a rattle off it again in 4 years' time. But the Premiership was on over the weekend. Man United, we're not starting with Man United because Derwynne is here. You know, we won't gang up on you at all, Derwynne. It's all right. You know, you can nod your head if you don't want to say anything, and that's fine too.
No, I got more than enough to say.
I just want to play a bit of audio before we get into for everybody really.
Well, I think Man United are the new Spurs. Desperate, absolutely desperate. The biggest insult I always think about teams you can't do it away from home, or players who aren't up for the away from home. They're a good team. They fancy it when their home fans are in front of them. They got that support and that energy. United go away today, second half, weak, no leadership, give bad goals away. Spurs were lovely, honestly. All credit to Spurs. But United, it's easy to play against Man United also. I said before the game they were poor against, obviously, Wolves, but they got the result and they'll be better today. They weren't. We make the point up that they were fine the first half an hour, but the game is well over 90 minutes. You're obviously not going to dominate that long, but you've got to show some belief, desire, fight. They're bringing on Martial. They're bringing on these players. You might as well bring on Frank Stapleton and Norman Whiteside. Martial's not going to get you out of trouble. Rashford played up through the middle again, the usual stuff. He's like a child up there. He's obviously not happy playing up through the middle, and his body language, his first few touches when they get it, suggests I don't want to play up through the middle. But you have to. You know, you got to do a job for the team tonight. You're looking at their captain tonight, the senior players, who are established international players. Easy to play against. That's the biggest insult I can give to these United players.
I think the problem with United is at the minute is the.
Now that was courtesy of our friends in Sky Sports. That was Roy Keane, obviously, during after the match. Did you see the match, Derwynne?
Yeah.
And would you agree with Roy?
I thought for the first half, I thought United were okay. They didn't look great, but they were okay. The second half, I wish Fernandes did as much with the ball as he does with his lips, to be honest.
Yeah.
He does more talking and screaming and rowing and, arm waving and all the rest of it. I don't know. I look at it and I think to myself, how many of those players would be in there if Ferguson was in charge?
Well, Joe, did you see the match?
I did see the match, and United were okay in the first half. I'm not sure I agree with what Roy says in everything that United and new Spurs and what have you. It's a bit early to be talking like that, realistically. But I read an article by Jose Mourinho the other day, and they talked about what Roy was talking about and what Derwynne was talking about there. Fernandes is the captain of Manchester United. He is not a leader. Just because you're captain doesn't mean you're a leader. And leaders are all over the field. They're just not the captain. He does not happen to be a leader of that team. He is not capable of influencing the other players to go in a way that he wants them or needs them to go. And he's too petulant. He is too selfish. He's whining about the fact that United didn't get a penalty in the first half, which, don't get me wrong, I agree with him. There was a really good shout for a penalty on that. However, last Monday, Pat, when we were on this show and the United game was on, Honan comes off his line when United are winning 1-0, and he clears out two Wolves players with no chance of getting the ball, and the referee does not give a penalty.
Yeah.
And he says, well, that's the way. After that game, he says, well, that's the way the referee sees it. Well, you know what? The referee saw that it wasn't a handball yesterday. It happens. Get over it. Get on with it. Over the course of 38 games as they are now, those things are going to even themselves out.
Yeah.
You expect things to go against you, right? So if you give a penalty away in the first minute, do you shut down for the next 89 and just accept that we're beaten already? No.
Yeah. No.
You have to roll your sleeves up and get stuck into it. And they didn't do that in the second half. Spurs came out in the second half. They were more enthusiastic. They were on the front foot, and they were just quicker to the ball than United were all over the field.
Yeah.
And that was the problem in the game. United just didn't have the answers. No, Roy is not wrong when he talks about, Rashford. You and I talked about that last week, Pat. That Rashford is not a centre forward.
No.
He doesn't like playing there. But the fact is, the team needs him up there. And he needs to put in a shift when he's playing.
We don't want to be going on too much about one team, but Harry Maguire was the captain of Man United. Bruno Fernandes, as you said, is not a leader. He's not a captain. And to me, I don't think he deserves his place on the team. Anyway, he's overrated.
Do you know the one thing I don't understand? And you won't get anybody more United than me.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Casemiro hasn't got that captain's armband.
Yeah.
To me, he's the only one who looks like he's always trying.
Yes, I agree.
And I do actually think, because of who he is, that he could command, if he started giving Garnacho a bollocking, because Garnacho, Anthony's the same. Anthony will turn the defender inside out and then come back and go again. And it's like, stop it, pass it, move it, stop showboating. Because that's how I feel about Anthony. To me, he looks like he'll beat the defender and then he checks and stops and has another go. And 9 times out of 10, on the second go, he loses the ball.
There comes a time, but I know Ten Hag is the manager, but there comes a time when you must call the manager out. And I don't mean out in a negative way. I mean this. Those problems, some of them were there last year. The manager's job is to improve the team, surely, by either changing the players around, putting them into the right positions, or buying in players. And he has not done that in the first couple of games this season so far.
Joe, you're a pro footballer. When you watch Garnacho, do you go, wow, he's the next, Ronaldo, he's the next whoever?
To be honest, I think he has got great potential. And what Pat's talking about, we tend to forget when we look at young players, and Anthony is still a young player as well.
He is.
And Garnacho is a young player. And so is the other kid that they have there. Oh, God, I can't think of his name now. Plays on the wing also. They paid a lot of money for him from, is it Bayern or Dortmund?
Yeah, it's
Jadon Sancho.
Sancho, yeah. Is it Sancho?
So he's another. Whoever the kid is, he's another one of those. They're young players. Cast your mind back to when Cristiano Ronaldo came to United. Cristiano Ronaldo was all show and no dough.
No graphic.
There was nothing at the end of it. He was a trickster, and Sir Alex Ferguson eventually got him out of that and actually got him to be an effective player. And that's what's happening with these guys now. They're young guys that are learning their trade.
True.
They have to learn. We've talked about this before, and we're talking about 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds being Premier League quality at that age. There are not too many players that are truly Premier League quality at that age. Neither of those players has played 100 games yet in the Premier League.
True.
So for you to be a truly experienced player, you need to play over 100 games. That's nearly 2.5 seasons that you have to play, nearly 3 seasons. And that's how you get the experience. And I'm talking about playing that regularly, experiencing the ups and downs that you have with that. And coming out. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
So, I mean, that's why we're seeing so many buyback clauses now with young players going to other clubs.
Oh, yes.
Because they know. Look at what happened to Mo Salah. When he was at Chelsea, they let him go. And he went to Italy and then comes back to Liverpool and he's a totally different player.
Yeah.
You know, so there were players like that all over the place that are let go young because their club policy is to buy players in. So there's not enough room for these kids to develop.
Do you think as well, when Ronaldo first went to United, and like you said, he was doing all the tricks and the step overs and all the rest of that, he had someone like Roy Keane in the middle absolutely screaming at him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to loads of stuff with Roy Keane and stuff, and you sit there, and even like Rooney to a point, you know, Rooney was screaming at Ronaldo to pass the ball into him. There was Giggs giving him grief.
It was Neville giving him grief.
Neville. You think of even Nicky Butt. You think of that backbone, they would have been giving Ronaldo grief, wouldn't they?
They would.
And I sit there like yesterday, or not yesterday, but on Saturday, and you watch United, and you just go, "Who's the one who's screaming about what's going on?" Because Fernandez isn't, because he loses the ball and he walks back.
Yeah.
And you sit there and I look at it and you go, you know, watch Wan-Bissaka. You know, Wan-Bissaka barely even communicates with the guys by his side. And I look at it, you just said about a leader. To me, the only player in that United team, to me, who looks like a leader, or my opinion, not my gut feeling is, I don't know him from Adam. I've never watched him play other than on telly. But I think Casemiro's the one person who should be the leader, who is screaming at these players.
But you're looking at, surely the manager sees them every week, 4 times every week. They're professional footballers on the training ground, in the gym. Surely he can gauge a character. After all, it was the manager appointed Bruno Fernandes as captain. I don't know why, but he did.
But Joe, you played professional football. When you were playing as a kid, when you were first division, making your debut at whatever 18 or whatever it was, did you must have had someone in that Leicester team who you didn't bark back at, or you weren't allowed to be petulant and throw your toys out the pram. Because someone would have been all over you.
Oh, if you'd acted like that, yes, they would.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. But you know, to a certain extent, Roy Keane is right in what he's talking about. Look at the makeup of the United team. When you're building a team, you build a spine right up the middle of the field, from your goalkeeper to your centre half, to your centre midfield, one of your centre midfield players, to your centre forward, right? United have just got a new goalkeeper that they're obviously believing to be that. You have Rafael Varane, who's won a World Cup, who should be a leader. Martinez does a good job in that. He was very unlucky on Saturday against Spurs. Very unlucky. He's trying the ball goes through the guy's legs and he's trying to clear it and he ends up putting it in his own net. But this guy is a leader. But again, he's learning his trade. You have Casemiro, who is the real deal in midfield, in my opinion. And then you've got up front, you've got Marcus Rashford, who's sulking because he doesn't want to play in that position.
Yeah.
So they're still building on what they need. But you look back at what United used to have. They used to have Schmeichel. They used to have Vidic. They used to have Roy Keane. And they used to have Cantona or Andy Cole up there, or Dwight York, or whoever it was, or Teddy Sheringham. All of those guys up there right now. Can you imagine if United had a Cantona, a Sheringham, a Dwight York, or Andy Cole up front? They'd be a totally different team.
I know we're talking about United a lot here, but
Yeah.
When you think about it, you know, Bruce Pallister. Back before that, you had Buchan or the Greenoffs, or
Yeah.
you had people in there who definitely looked like they wanted to.
You had Gordon McQueen in there.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
you look
fantastic. Yeah,
you look at the history of it, and you kind of do sit there and go, who, you know, if you took Busby's, let's say the European Cup winning team, right? So how many of that European Cup winning team in '68, if you could turn the clock back, how many of them make the team every week at United? Probably.
Back in those days?
As in, if you could transport that team back to now.
Definitely the back four.
Well, you look at the back four was Shea Brennan, Bill Fuchs, David Sadler, and Tony Dunn.
Tony Dunn, yeah.
With Nobby Siles sitting in front of him.
Yeah.
Right.
With
Charlton.
Bobby Charlton.
You got Willie Morgan, Brian Kidd.
So on the team, in the final team, it was George Best, Bobby Charlton, Brian Kidd, Johnny Aston outside.
John Aston, yeah.
Paddy Crerand. So you have Paddy Crerand and Nobby Styles in midfield, right? With Bill Fuchs right behind him, and then Alex Stepney in goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had George and Johnny Aston, George on the right, Aston on the left, terrorizing people.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I mean,
if you were stepping out on the pitch, now we'll have the last one, Man United. Last Saturday, you were a sports player, Joe, right? You were given. Would you be afraid of any United player on the pitch?
Not really. I wouldn't have been afraid of any of them, because you look at what they did on Monday night against Wolves, and you're going, these guys are not the real deal here, you know. And you're going, we have a chance here today. You know,
well, just looking at the other results quickly, we'll come back to the soccer again. Brighton are top of the league. It's nice to see. I don't know how long they'll be there for, but they might as well enjoy it. They're looking down at everybody else. I know it's only 2 games in. Liverpool had a win. They had a stuttering win, in my opinion, at home. West Ham won as well, and Forest got their first win. And as we said, Spurs won as well. But and young Bellingham got 2 goals over the weekend. And Everton, I saw a lot of the Everton match. After we were saying that before we came on here, Joe, that it's very hard to say a team is in serious trouble after 2 games, but Everton does not look in great shape.
No, they do not. You know what? You're right, but I've been in that situation before, and you know, you kick off on the first Saturday of the start of the season, and at 3 o'clock and at 20-5, you know you're going to be in a relegation battle, and that reminded me of Everton on Saturday. Everton looks so. They just look terrible.
And top of the championship are 2 traditional teams. Remember Filbert Street and Portman Road, lads? Well, they're both giant top of the championship. Ipswich Town
and Leicester
City. So bright futures again. Back to traditional soccer. Joe and Derwynne, I saw a cracking game most of the night. Wrexham and 5-5 in the second division. And I saw a bit of Grimsby. I saw most of the Grimsby match on another channel. I can't say what it was. They won all draw at Mansfield Town.
Yes, I saw the goal. What a cracking goal the Grimsby goal was.
Yeah, it was.
It was a terrific goal.
SportsView is the program, lads, and tell all your friends about us, and press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel. We'll briefly move on to rugby because the World Cup is around the corner. The first match of the World Cup is New Zealand and France on Friday, the 8th of September. New Zealand and France. What a game to open the World Cup. But over the weekend, Ireland beat England 29-10, and South Africa did a huge number on Wales over the weekend as well, and France beat Fiji in Ireland. But Keith Earls, man here from Limerick City, Joe Keith Earls, won his 100th cap. You know, what a player! what an underrated player, and what a player that there's very little fanfare about. 35, almost 36 years of age, scored the last try of the game, which is fitting, really. I'm delighted. But he's been an absolute.
That was 100 tries in 100 matches.
Yeah, as well in all competitions.
Right.
Yeah.
In all.
I mean, just think about that.
Yeah.
If somebody played 100 soccer matches for their country and scored 100 goals. Now, I know it's a little bit different in rugby because you can score anywhere on the field, across the field. But it's still a huge achievement.
You must go over that line, to still as far as the goal,
Oh,
it's
an
achievement, And he's well, the media has a lot to play in profile of players as well. But we down here in Munster, anyway, down here in Limerick, where I'm at the moment, we know what the talent he was, and he was on the Lions team as well. Derwynne, you saw him playing as well. Keith Earls, that is, an absolute fraud. But England are in serious trouble for the World Cup, rugby-wise.
Yeah, I think it's like we were talking earlier, Pat.
I
think England, if they get out of their group, they've done well.
I think so. I think that's what they're. I saw a bit of. I was telling Derwynne, I saw a bit of a thing with Eddie Jones, the manager of Australia, and they've had a rather bad season in the run up to the World Cup, and he was being interviewed. I know it was at a local television station. They said, "Well, it did it." Well, he said, "I consider us one of the favourites to win the Rugby World Cup." I mean, I thought it was very funny, But Jones is Jones, but they are good. I saw them in the last two matches they played. Australia, you should never underestimate them. They have a lot of talent in the team, Not because Eddie Jones is their manager. They'll be there or thereabouts. But I mean, we're looking forward to that. As I said, do you see much rugby over the weekend, lads?
I didn't see the games because I was watching the soccer matches.
Yeah.
They might not have even actually been on here. But, I kind of look at this. We've got something going on here with right now with the NFL.
Yeah.
The NFL have just started their preseason games. And I have no interest in it at this stage because it's all second string guys that are playing, third string guys. Yeah. And it won't be till the fourth game that they actually bring the starters in and play, have them. So I think that there's just a lot of stuff that goes on in this build up to it, that guys are playing for their spots and what have you, and they're experimenting a little bit. Oh. So I don't read a lot into any of it, results wise. It's just, I think that they're just fine tuning right now, and they know where they want to be. They know what their best guys are, and they're just getting the supporting cast in place.
Yeah. No, if you look at Wales over the weekend, I think they threw in 6 players into that 15 against South Africa who have only got 1 or 2 caps.
Right.
And that's Warren Gatland, to me, blooding them.
Yeah.
And trying to find out who wants to stand out of the crowd. I mean, the centre, I can't remember his name, the centre, number 12, he had a great match, and if you stood there and said, well, surely he's got to be on the plane now to go.
Yeah.
Because even if he's just the stand-in, he was magnificent.
And it's a lot of rugby, a lot of sporting games, as you know, is about heart, as well as talent and fitness. A lot of it's about heart as well and energy. Now, over the weekend, there was our man came up trumps Derwynne, Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland, he won the BMW. I don't know why he's not coming up in the picture. I had a picture of him there. Anyway, Victor, we all know what he looked like. He won the BMW with a final round of 61.
Yeah. They played it. It's another resort course, though.
I mean, he had 4 rounds of 69, 68, 63, 65 and 61. I mean, I was wondering, is that a golf course for serious professional players?
It's a resort course. It was wet, rain in the lead up to that event, and they were just peppering the flag. I don't know if you saw any of it. I mean, they were knocking the flags out.
Yeah, that's true.
I watched the bit on Saturday night, and honestly, it was just like throwing darts at a dartboard.
No, of course, all these competitions are important because they're coming close to finalising the Ryder Cup team, and to that end, we had that chap, what's his name, Daniel Brown. I didn't come across him before. He won up in Northern Ireland. He won the ISPS Handa, where the men and women play on both courses together every second hole. You know, I think it's a very good idea, and they get equal money as well, equal pay for them. But this Daniel Brown ran away with it anyway, minus 15. In up in where was this?
Galgorm Castle.
Yes, that's it exactly. And Alexa Panner from the United States won the women's thing. Our own Leona Maguire, who'll be down around here at the end of the month, the 1st of September. She had 4 rounds in the 70s, and she's not playing well. Now the Ryder Cup. Zach Johnson, I think, will pick. I think he'll pick Brooks Koepka Derwynne for the Ryder Cup.
If he doesn't, then he's just being pressurised, isn't he, by the authorities not to put a live player in.
I was watching that. It's interesting about Koepka. He's missed out on the automatic last spot. Because who was that? Was it Hovland? Was the last one? Not Hovland. Who was the last one to make it on the US side?
Homer, is it? Max Homer.
Max Homer.
Okay, so he was the last one to make it.
Yeah.
And he has played. His points total is something like 9 points, 10 points, something like that, more than Koepka. Now he's played in 25 events. Koepka has played in 10.
Yeah.
So that's telling you right there, you know, what's going on and who should be in and who shouldn't be. And Derwynne, you're right. I wondered. Now these guys are waiting for the phone call from Zach Johnson is the.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for the phone call from him as to whether they're going to make it or not. And I was wondering, I have to admit, is this going to become political? And are they going to oust the live guys just because and slap them?
I think that it wouldn't surprise me, as you said, Derwynne, but it would be very, very unfair. People want to see the best golfers in the Ryder Cup because, after all, the Europeans were destroyed in the last. They were embarrassed in the last Ryder Cup. 19-9, was it, Derwynne, or something like that? 19-9.
I would say that. Yeah.
A slaughter.
I just got a funny feeling this one's going to be just horrendous.
I think so. Do you know what I'm worried about? John Rahm has lost all form.
The thing that worries me is not so much about a player losing form going into it. I'm more worried about the bigger picture, because I think if this turns into a bit of a going back into the 50s and 60s and the 70s, where it just became a trouncing for the Europeans or the Great Britain team, whichever it was, I got a funny feeling that whole Ryder Cup thing could fall off a cliff and become a very second-rate event, if that makes any sense.
I mean, they lost the last one, 19-9. If they were to be whitewashed again in this one, I think interest can wane very quickly in a competition like that, you know? I mean, money.
You got Sky pay a lot of money to be part of that. CBS pay a lot of money.
You know, ESPN.
There is a hell of a lot of money going across the table, and all those sponsors and the hospitality, and there is tons of money put across that table that you necessarily don't realise because it's not prize funded or there's no money in it, or yet, you know, it could easily become a bit of a, you know, you've only got to think back to the early 70s. You know, half the American team didn't want to play in the Ryder Cup. You know, it was Nicholas that dragged most of the players in.
It was.
You've got to play.
Yeah.
This is about representing America.
He revived all that.
if Nicholas hadn't gone to Lord Derby and said, "You've got to bring the Europeans into this because I'm struggling to get these Americans to come over," you know, to me, you could easily be headed down that road again. You know,
it so easily could. I was telling the story a few weeks ago. Tom Weiskopf was one of the top golfers in the world at one point. He was picked for the Ryder Cup, and he said, "No, I'm not going to play in that tournament." He said, "It's hunting season in Ohio. I'm going hunting," and he wouldn't play in it. But I mean, I remember watching.
He refused to play.
I mean, I remember watching it when there was no crowds,
no one
there, no interest in it.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Well, for it to become what it did.
No, I've been lucky. I was coached by an ex-Ryder Cup player. 11 Ryder Cups he played in. He was captain twice of the Ryder Cup team. So he played all the way through the 50s and 60s. Where
who was that?
It was Bernard Hunt.
Bernard Hunt.
So
yeah,
you know, he'd be standing there talking to us as youngsters in the golf shop, and he would be saying, you had, you know, players going out and going, "Well, oh my God, I've got to go and play Gene Littler. Oh, yeah. I hope I make it to the back nine. You know, I hope I lose on the 15th, not on the 11th." And they were players in the team.
That's right.
Who were like dreading, "Oh, I'm going to get absolutely annihilated here."
No, Derwynne,
you think about it. You know, that whole event was built up really by Seve.
Yes.
You know, if you think of the legacy Seve leaves behind, is probably more to do with the Ryder Cup than it is anything else.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And this year in Rome, in Italy, it will be the Ryder Cup. Derwynne, do you think there'll be some live players on the European side?
No.
No? I can't see any of them. Well, I mean, no. some of them would be over the top anyway. Wouldn't be up to it anyway. I don't think, you know. Although they are in live golf is a team sport as well, you know. There are teams of 4 in live golf, all the competitions, so they were used to playing for points as well in the team mentality. I don't know.
There'll be no Europeans off live.
I mean, Luke Donald is a colourless character. He has no personality.
He's going to suit the job down to the ground, doesn't he?
He's never won anything.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think he won a US Open, didn't he? The US PGA or something.
I don't think he won a major, did he?
I think he did. I thought he won a US Open, but he was world number 1 for a long time.
Colin Montgomery was too. I saw him playing over the weekend in the other competition. Oh, very funny. He's a funny man. And Vijay Singh, oh God.
Vijay.
he got a stool one time. He got a stool to sit in the stool one time, waiting for someone to take a shot. I thought it was very funny. If you come across it, you know, that was funny. But that was good.
I just can't.
Go on.
I don't think there's a single European player who would make that team.
Huh?
Poulter's not going to make it. Westwood's not going to make it.
No.
Richard Bland isn't going to get picked. Graham McDowell's never going to be picked.
No. He's playing reasonably well. Sergio Garcia.
I mean, does Sergio get picked?
I mean, there are golfers, Derwynne, who are suited to Ryder Cup to match play, and I think Garcia is one of those. You know,
I just see there's way too much politics in this Ryder Cup picking.
I mean, obviously, Hovland, after winning over the weekend, Hovland it will be in the European team, as well as John Ram, McIlroy, probably Lowry. Will Lowry be in it? I don't know. Shane Lowry.
Oh, yeah, Lowry would be in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what wouldn't be a bad shout? Is Harrington getting a pick?
Well, Harrington has an outside chance of getting in, believe it or not, you know.
That that would make sense. Harrington.
Yeah, he's a good match player. Do you know, as we're speaking tonight, and since last Saturday, the World Athletics Championships are running in Hungary, and I must admit there was one person there who caught my eye. She's the heptathlete from England, Katarina Johnson-Thompson. You know her, Derwynne, I presume. Have you heard of her? She had.
Yeah, I don't do athletics.
I don't know, but her story, her backstory, you can look it up in there. Anyone who's interested in athletics, she won the gold medal by 20 points. It's narrow enough, but she was just fantastic. Oh, I just saw a bit of that. Our own girls are running tonight, the 400 meters. I don't know who won or lost in that. But I saw a match late last night. I wasn't going to stay up. I was just fooling around, trying to wind down myself before I went to bed. And
you live an exciting life, haven't you? You got to wind yourself down.
Eating chocolate bars and drinking tea isn't a good recipe, I tell you. But
I have to walk down to go to bed.
I had the tennis channel on the final of the Cincinnati 1000 Masters between Alcaraz and Djokovic, and as you know, Alcaraz beat Djokovic in the Wimbledon final. But they both made the final. It was over 3 sets, 4 hours and 40 minutes, and Novak won out. It was an absolute sensational match. If you have no interest in tennis, pick this up on YouTube. You'll be absolutely enthralled. You could not literally tell, and I'm being honest here, until the last stroke of the racket. You couldn't tell who was going to win it. But the man prevailed, Novak. The man prevailed. He's 39th Masters event that he won, which is incredible. Of course, the US Open is starting next Monday, as we speak, the US Open, which is the last major of the year. So that will be interesting for all your tennis fans. Getting back to the soccer, Arsenal and Crystal Palace, we're on air tonight on Monday, the 21st of August, and Arsenal Crystal Palace are 0-0 at half-time. So there's no goal there. Arsenal playing Crystal Palace at home. So, I mean, that is Crystal Palace are at home. But getting back to the soccer, it's a very early days. Man City are looking good for the thing already, in my opinion. They look very well organised of all the teams. I thought Chelsea would be more organised than they were. They had a bad defeat there. Did you see that match? West Ham did a number on them and just very poor.
I thought Chelsea played all right in parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought Chelsea. I actually thought Chelsea looked really good.
Yeah.
They've got some young players playing. Chelsea's problem right now, which is the problem when you put young players in. I mean, Spurs were unusual on Saturday in that all their young players came good on the day, and the young guy scored a goal and what have you. I thought Chelsea did a great job. Their inexperience up front cost them a little bit, and being able to score goals, we all know, is the hardest part of the game in any game. And they just are. They're knocking on the door of it, but they're just not getting the final piece to it. And they were a bit. I think West Ham were a bit fortunate to beat 3-1 winners in it. I didn't think the difference in the game was that much.
Yeah. Well,
I was telling Pat earlier on the stat yesterday from the West Ham game.
Yeah.
That West Ham had 24% possession.
Right.
And they win 3-1.
Yeah.
I just noticed, lads, we're all wearing glasses.
And we all reached a certain, and we've all got
It's not a requirement. It's not a requirement to come on the show, but we all have wearing that.
But I tell you though, I mean, Pat, you said Liverpool
it's
weren't
like
convincing.
Radio, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought Liverpool looked good.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought they looked good. I thought they had a lot. They had a lot going for them. They're back to that. Really, they were the same at Chelsea last week. They're back to the place where they've got those lightning attacks. you know, but I still say, and it seems like, you know, I'm picking on him, but Trent got caught out again at the weekend, and he was lucky enough to get away with it. I think they eventually give offside for the goal, but you know, I just don't see. They've got to improve that somehow. They've got to do something about getting caught on the back post on the right hand side, on their right hand side. They seem very vulnerable to that, and if they don't fix that, I think that that could cost them the league in the finish. But it'll be interesting to see.
It's early in the season, and I hope they do well. I like Liverpool. As I said, I'm not a big fan of Van Dijk this season so far. I don't know. Maybe Maybe he'll work out all right. He's lost a bit of pace, you know, in my opinion. But anyway, as they say, Shin Scale, Shin Dara Leshin Clor. Now, Derwynne, there's a bit of Gaelga for you there tonight. Derwynne is our. Do you speak Welsh, Derwynne? No.
Do I what?
Do you speak?
Say that again.
Do you speak Welsh? Do you speak Welsh? You're a half a taffy.
I'm born and bred in Wembley, you silly sod.
I know.
Wembley's not a borough of Cardiff.
But he only speaks English, not the mind Welsh, for God's sake. He's a Londoner, for God's sake.
I can just about speak Cockney, let alone English.
Anyway, lads, it's been a great. We'll, as I said, we leave it there. So for another edition of SportsView from Derwynne, from Joe, and from myself, Pat. Until we meet again, lads, have a great week and enjoy yourselves. We'll see you again next Monday night. Take care and bye-bye.
Good luck, lads.
See you, boys.